Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us across the continents. So this is Sridhar Ratakonda. I'm the co-founder at Predactica, as DJ said. I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. So today the topic is very critical and important. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you all joined. It's about generative AI and its implications and experiences from the field in the healthcare and life sciences industry. So we are honored to have Deepak Gupta from Tech Mahindra, who is head of VP and services for life sciences and healthcare, join us. So Deepak, thank you very much for joining us today. Before we get into the discussion, Deepak, could you please share a bit of your background and your recent work in this space to give some context to the audience?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Sridhar. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from different time zone. Of course, myself, Deepak Gupta. I heads the service offering and solutions for healthcare life sciences at Tech Mahindra. I've been working on the life sciences and healthcare for almost 2 decades, especially around data analytics, AI, and absolutely fascinated the way this industry is going in terms of how the AI and GenAI picked up. So looking forward for this session today, Shita.
Thanks, Deepak. So in terms of overall generative AI adoption or deployments, can you throw some light into what trends you're seeing across your clients in this space, Deepak?
Absolutely. So firstly, there is almost every customer in healthcare life sciences space is asking about Gen AI. Now, one interesting fact which I want to share with all of you is 8 out of 10 customers asking about Gen AI are still unclear what they would like to do. I think the conversation all started like, hey, we want to do something in Gen AI, but what is that? Now, those who know that what they would like to do, they are still struggling to differentiate what is native AI and what is Gen AI. And finally, there are a lot of apprehensions around, in terms of security guardrails, what Gen AI can do. But we also find out that the pharma customers, if you look at the entire spectrum of healthcare life sciences, basically pharma, med device, payer providers, pharma customers are a little ahead on the curve compared to med device, and then followed by providers, and then payers are still figuring, modernizing their infrastructure. So what we have done, that we've actually taken a 3-step approach, and that's what we are applying with customers in terms of bringing value for Gen AI. One is, education for together with demonstration of minimal viable products. So what does it mean is pick up some low-hanging, high-value use cases, which actually serves the business needs. More importantly, and I'm going to talk about more in latest stage, is what Gen AI can or cannot do. Defining the right guardrails, and finally, adding a human in the loop. So the step one is doing this education and demonstrating the minimal viable products for specific use cases. Step two is performing some kind of POCs or pilot, picking a specific department and showcase the business value, and finally the productionization of it. That's how we are seeing customers are also approaching this and to bring right business value.
Thanks, Deepak. That's some great insights. In terms of deployment versus experimentation, do you have any data points you can say that, hey, X% are using it for deployments currently, or anything you can share, Deepak, in terms of kind of
so
numbers?
What we are seeing, it's still at a stage, the experimentation is close to around 75%, and productionization is still 25%. So there are more experiments happening than production at this point of time, Sridhar. That's what we are seeing.
Got it. Okay. So Deepak, to continue on this kind of what you mentioned, are there any compelling use cases that you're seeing? And if we could break it down between healthcare and life sciences, that be of great value to the users. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So what we are seeing is, first of all the 3 sub-verticals, if I look within HLS, whether it's life sciences, providers and payers, those they are use cases which differs from one vertical to other. So if I have to pick to start with the providers, the health systems, they are focusing on low-hanging use cases around patient-provider interactions, like the pre-encounter use cases around predictive patient flow management. Like they're trying to use Gen AI for analyzing the historical data and predict patient arrival patterns. Like, basically that allows hospitals to allocate right resources, reduce overcrowding, and basically better manage staff. So that's one use case we are seeing. They're trying to leverage Gen AI. There's another use case which is standard one. It's patient profile summaries, where they are expecting kind of leveraging Gen AI for generating summaries for medical history, diagnostics, treatment, surgeries, etc. So that's one area where we are seeing customers uh, are leveraging Gen AI. The other one is in terms of during encounter, they're leveraging Gen AI for identifying outliers and to understand the implication of diagnostics. So risk stratification use cases where Gen AI can be leveraged for kind of summarizing the notes and leverage those notes from physicians, etc., to outline the diagnostics. And then finally, in the post-encounter use cases, one of the interesting one is the medical adherence, where they're trying to leverage Gen AI for simplifying the communication with patients in terms of their social behavior, so that they can better leverage the right medication. And then finally, remote patient monitoring use cases where the patient behavior can be leveraged while they track the monitoring of the patients. So in provider space, those are some of the low-hanging use cases where health systems started leveraging Gen AI. When it boils down to life sciences, which is a little bit ahead, there are a variety of use cases where Gen AI, I'm seeing the experimentation has started and a little bit moving towards the productionization. One of them is this, of course, the entire process of drug discovery, where Gen AI can be used to accelerate the entire research of molecules for potential drugs. We are seeing another use case in life sciences is this optimizing the entire clinical trial processes. So whether it's identifying the right patient population, whether it's about researching to predict the outcomes, or it's about optimizing the treatment protocols. So we are seeing Gen AI started leveraging there. There's another use case where we are seeing traction is around medical writing. Pharmaceutical companies who are trying to kind of automate the process of converting a scientific language in the user-defined language for various different interactions to patients. Today, that's all happening manually. They're trying to leverage Gen AI for that. And then finally, in the payer space, we're seeing tractions around claim processing, like use cases around prior authorizations, where in the past there are a lot of manual exercise happening in authorizing, comparing the what is in the policy versus what is doctor treatment, and there are a lot of checklists which the payers has to do and pass through. So a lot of so that is also we are seeing Gen AI leverage for automate that. So nutshell, those are very interesting use cases, Sridhar, which we are seeing. All the three different sub vertical we are seeing customers are asking.
That's a great list, Deepak, and thanks for sharing with us. That's very comprehensive. Gives a lot of meat for our listeners, hopefully, to understand where the use cases are being used in these verticals, right? So one thing, Deepak, I'm sure most of the audience here kind of probably can relate to that, is we hear folks saying, "Hey, we have companies like Microsoft introduce Copilot, right?" Similarly, we have Google and AWS coming with their own copilots, where users can use ChatGPT like functionality to do a lot of powerful things, especially with the new 4.0 version that has come out. So why can't companies use copilots from these big tech companies instead of using like solution wrappers around LLMs? For example, TechM might be providing some, I'm sure, some capabilities around this. So why not go with out of the box solution as opposed to going through a solution wrapped around these LLMs? Would love to hear your thoughts on this, Deepak.
That's a great question, Sridhar. See, I'll tell you, and that's true. A lot of hyperscalers come up with this, kind of models like co-pilots, which has out-of-the-box functionality of performing some of the core functions, whether it's HR, supply chain, finance, etc. But one thing, what we are seeing, there's a huge realization in customer community that those co-pilots cannot work unless there is right security guardrails defined, right? And that's where the apprehension sit. So even though if you're deploying any modules of Copilot, there's a need of defining the right security guardrails, and which is very critical because you don't want to expose your secure data to the entire organization. So that's why it is very important that some of these co-pilots has to be customized for specific purposes. Now, another interesting aspect what we are seeing with customers, and which is very interesting, is they are realizing the power of these I would say pre-built co-pilots, but they're trying to leverage it for their specific business functions. So for example, I was talking to one of the customer in the life sciences space who has a large team for pharmacovigilance. Now, there are different personas within pharmacovigilance perform different actions. For example, in order to read the adverse events, whether it's coming through emails or conversations or PDF documents from the HCPs, there is an intake analyst in the PV group or operational group who actually performs the exercise of reading these literature and then fill the form, which has around 250 plus elements. Now, what customers are saying, can we deploy a co-pilot to support these intake analysts or agents? Now, that's very interesting. So what we are seeing is there are a lot of interest coming up to create persona-based co-pilot models, which is basically customized versions of existing models, and then define the right guardrails on top of it, such that they are pretty much secure and under the guidance of regulatory and compliance.
Got it. So it looks like privacy security is a big barrier for a lot of healthcare customers of yours, which
absolutely
seems to be the trend. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Deepak. So one reminder for the audience, if you have any questions, you have expert here from the field with, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and towards the end of the session, we will take some of the questions. So following up on your earlier comment, Deepak, you mentioned a lot of your customers are still in experimentation stage. So I guess comes down to barriers in terms of adoption, especially around concerned about LLMs in terms of accuracy, hallucinations, and privacy as well. Can you share any additional ground truth in terms of how customers are very concerned about these, and what you're seeing in the field, especially when it comes to accuracy part or concerns about regulatory, guidelines and all those things, right?
Absolutely, I get great question. See, one thing we are realizing that there's a difference between hype and reality for GenAI, and we have been constantly, kind of helping customers and supporting this. And I can give you example of hype versus reality for GenAI, and I'm sure a lot of people in this call will relate to it. The very first hype for GenAI is that GenAI on its own can deliver value. I can take an example with one of the customer asking that, hey, I want to create something like a physician chat GPT kind of a dashboard or a bot where my physicians can ask any question to that bot about a patient, and it can respond back with all the accurate answers whether it's about the scheduling of appointment, whether it's about the reports of our patient or its previous history, etc., etc. Now, I'm sure they have read it somewhere that it can happen. But then the reality is, while Gen AI can do that, but it needs a data infrastructure behind that. So in order to make that work, the step one is to build your data infrastructure. What does it mean? You need to have a single source of data that on top of it that Gen AI engine run, and that data could come from your EMR, EHR systems. It can come from your pathological systems. It can come from a DICOM system. So there should be a mechanism to ingest the data from all the different sources of data into one place. Then only Gen AI can deliver value. So that's one hype, which the reality is you need an infrastructure for data for Gen AI to deliver value. The second hype, which I'm seeing in the market, is uh, Gen AI is like a plug and play thing. Like you can put it on top of any existing data set and start giving results. Like for example, I was talking to one of customer, and they're saying, "Hey, I have SAP as an ERP, I have Kronos as my HCM, I have Epic as my EHR, and hey, can we connect Gen AI on top of it, and and generate some kind of use cases delivered." This is another hype. It's not like Gen AI is not something like a plug and play solution. It is something which you have to kind of strategize. What does it mean in this case is, from all the different sources, you need to find a mechanism to bring it one single source of data, and another mechanism to kind of keep ingesting this new data set to this centralized lake, and then define some LLM models to have Gen AI to generate results. So that's another, again, and a hype, which the reality is something different. And thirdly, another myth or a hype is, I'm sure a lot of people start knowing the name of LLM, large language model, and they believe that these LLMs are the magic bullet. So they say, oh, as soon as I select an LLM, whether it's OpenAI or from other companies, I'm done with my Gen AI project. That's again another hype. And the answer is no. The reality is, LLM is just a base LLM that will give you a base functionality. You still have to customize this LLM. So nowadays, the LLM workbench to customize or build your new LLMs is very critical and important. And then finally, it's again a very interesting hype is Gen AI will instantly affect my organization. So when I implement a use case in Gen AI, I expect a ROI out of it tomorrow. That's also a hype. The reality is it's a process. You still need a roadmap. You have to still define a strategy that, hey, what are the use cases you want to pick? You have to have a mechanism of keep training your data to provide the accurate results. You have to still define the guardrails that the results are within your expectation. You still have to define the right prompts so that the outcomes are not biased. So again, those are some of the hypes and barriers, I would say, Sridhar. And the answer to all of that is to define a strategic roadmap for Gen AI, picking the right use cases to start with to bring value, and then append or expand on that. So that's how we are seeing.
Got it. That's a very good kind of putting kind of giving a reality check, right, in terms of the hype
Yeah.
and what the concerns are. So one challenge I'm sure a lot of audience here can kind of again correlate is, a lot of times you hear data is everything, right? In fact, we have experienced in implementing GenAI solutions as well, is you go with a GenAI use case, but the bigger challenge, as you mentioned rightly, is the data is not unified. They don't have the right data, right? If you don't have the right data, your output might not be relevant, right? It might not be accurate to meet your business needs. So when you go to a customer who is purely focused on the AI part, can you share any examples of how your team can or convinces the customer, look, you need to look at your data first? How does that conversation happen? Anything you can share will be of great value, Deepak.
Absolutely. So the way when we approach and whenever some customer came to us that, hey, they are looking for leveraging GenAI for some of these specific use cases. The first thing we recommend them to have some kind of a focused GenAI strategy. What we do is we pick up the entire value chain of whether it's payer, provider, or life sciences, and start identifying for that organization all the different use cases or business functions divided into three categories: low, medium, or high in terms of impact it can generate by leveraging GenAI. That's step one. And then compare or match that with the business value it can generate, because that way you can get a leadership support right from top. Now, once that is identified, the very next step is start identifying the data readiness requirements to make that work. So sometimes that requires education to customers, saying that, hey, you have to get the right data infrastructure ready, whether it's about implementing modern data platforms on hyperscalers or like Snowflake, etc. But getting the data infrastructure ready for data readiness. And thirdly, which we have seen a simple change from the past. So in the past, a lot of people, and in fact, we also do a lot of POCs for customers to start with before they get into pilot and all. What we did as TechM, we started developing some minimal viable products. So we have done partnership with some of the hyperscalers and developed some minimal viable products in our own platforms. So we have two platforms within TechM. One is called Pharma Insight AI. It's a platform that we have, kind of built MVPs around, all the pharma use cases, especially around R&D and commerce. And we have another platform which we are recently launching called Pulse, which is basically for providers and payers. So what we are doing is, instead of customers, lose some time doing POC, showcase some of these pre-built solutions. We call it MVP, minimal viable products, for those customers. Leveraging that MVPs, and then based on that, we can follow the path of pilots for those. So that's what the approach we are leveraging, Sridhar, for customers to take true advantage of GenAI.
Got it. So continuing on the topic, Deepak, can you share any specific, of course, customer names, you don't want to reveal those, but like case studies or success stories where GenAI has improved significantly either healthcare outcomes or operational efficiencies? Because a lot of times there is a question, hey, how can you measure GenAI, right? Is it really helping the business ROI? So anything you can share, Deepak, in terms of metrics or success stories?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll probably pick few use cases, which is very interesting, and I would say they are still we just recently productionized. So the entire outcome of it we will realize in coming months. But one of them is around there's one of the pharmaceutical customer who are launching a new drug. Now, at the time of launch of a drug, they're trying to find out what are the right marketing channels where they can reach out to the healthcare professionals. And basically, the prime goal is to increase, one is the drug sell, but at the same time, the adherence and the optimization of the marketing effort to that. So very interestingly, we worked with them and build first of all a data infrastructure where we are bringing the data from all the different the CRM applications. They were using Viva in that case. We are also bringing the data from their order management systems in the past, and then of course the data coming from their the engineering system where the drug development happened, right? And then use all of this data set. And then, of course, the external data set coming from IQV and others to give the knowledge about, what are the pattern of people, for this kind of drugs in the past. You leverage all of this data set to identify the right marketing channel, whether it's a live channel, whether it's a, advertisement, whether it's, the medical representative movement to the HCPs, to find out the right marketing channel to take these to HCPs. And what we find from them, they were able to actually take this drug at least 3 times faster to the market compared to to the previous, in the past. So that's one interesting leverage of Gen AI. And this leverage of Gen AI scenario is, if you ask me, the least risk, because we're not talking about drug development or drug discovery use cases. So the adoption was much faster. And then this also built trust in the organization. And now we are working with this same organization on building additional use cases around drug discovery and all. So that's one. The other use case which we are seeing, yeah, in fact, has kind of tremendous, kind of benefit is around medical writing. So some of our customers, especially in the pharma industry, have, I would say, the army of people who are medical writers, and their role is to collect the data around a particular, drug within the organization, and then kind of construct the user-friendly language from the I would say the language which is a little bit more technical from the drug development perspective. And close to around 60 to 70 people were working in this organization for doing medical writing. And so we leverage Gen AI. Now, one interesting fact in this solution is we never claim that that Gen AI can replace the entire work. We took leverage Gen AI to reduce around 65 to 70% of the work that will baseline in terms of translating, and then the remaining is something which is done. So those two classic examples, Sridhar.
Got it. So it looks like operational efficiency is the main low-hanging fruit, if I can say that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you follow up with maybe health outcomes in our use cases. Okay. That's very informative. Thanks for that, Deepak. So I know we are close to half an hour already, half an hour mark here. Time flies, and we're having great conversations. So in terms of advice to audience who are looking to innovate with Gen AI in this space, especially around healthcare and life sciences, what advice would you, based on your experiences, Deepak, to the audience here?
Yeah, I mean, so I would, thanks for asking. And then I think that they have 3 to 4 different steps I would recommend everybody, to look at when they are trying to leverage GenAI to the fullest. First of all, identify the right use cases. Very, very important. And I talk about that create a kind of a heat map of all the different business functions that you have and what is their current, I would say, the performance and where GenAI can create an impact. So that's very important. And then picking those use cases which are low risk, high impact, you should pick that. Very importantly, validate your data readiness for those use cases. So there could be cases where the impact is high, but the preparation of data, it's also a humongous exercise. So preparation of data, kind of readiness, having the right data infrastructure is very important. Thirdly, data quality, ensuring that their right guardrails are defined to govern the data set. And then, of course, the strategic leadership involvement, because some of these use cases require multi teams to interact to each other to provide the right training data and then to generate the results. So those are the 3 or 4 key steps I would advise everybody to follow to get the best outcome from GenAI.
That's awesome. And thanks for all the insights, Deepak. Really appreciate it. So let's go to chat and see if anybody has any questions. So DJ, can you, I'm not able to see any, I'm not sure if there's any Q&A chat here. Okay, I think there are a few. Okay. Deepak, is there one question? I'll keep the name of the requester anonymous. So Deepak, are there specific benefits definable and measurable in the provider space using GenAI? This can be presented as definitive use cases for our customers. Has anybody assessed the security threats of using GenAI?
Yeah, so to answer the first question, there are definite use cases. Like one of them We are working very closely with the large health system is around reducing patient length of stay. So this is a use case where a customer said that, hey, can you reduce the length of stay of a patient in the hospital? And there are multiple factors which impact that. It could be streamlining the entire ER process, predicting the discharge planning, faster and accurate billing, increase the reduce the cycle time between payer and providers agreements. So we are working with them to leverage Gen AI across all these factors which could impact length of stay. So that's one use case which we see is picking up. Now, in terms of security threats, yes, almost every customer has asked us to evaluate the data sets requirement for performing the modeling exercise as well as the Gen AI outcomes and identify the security issues. So yes, to answer that question, both. There are quite a few concerns, and that's one area which takes maximum amount of time in any Gen AI implementation.
Got it. Thanks, Deepak. So another question, which is interesting one also is, do you think LLMs are overkill for fields like drug discovery, wherein 3D CNNs and GANs already quite good at this? Have LLMs currently become the kind of SOTA in the field of drug discovery, replacing the previous gen techniques like GANs and CNNs? Anything you can add the drug discovery?
I will not say LLMs are overkill, but I would say that there is a need to define custom LLMs for specific drug discovery scenarios. So the LLMs can be base LLM, but you have to define the customs ones, and specifically some of the algorithms like BERT and all can be configured. So I would say it's not an overkill, but it has to be configured and customized.
It makes sense. So are you doing any custom LLMs and on the topic, Deepak?
Oh yeah, so that's a great point. So at TechM, I'm sure a lot of people know we own our own LLM. It's called Indus. That's basically LLM which is for all the mostly Indian languages. So we have created an LLM, and we also have launched very recently as part of our Amplify AI Studio an LLM workbench where it can fast track the entire build process of LLM. Yes.
Got it. And fine-tuned for life sciences, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, that's the idea for us is, pick up these specific use cases, the MVPs I talk about. Those are the LLMs which we are fine-tuning specific for them.
Got it. Okay, one last question, but not least, very kind of relevant to healthcare field especially. What are the ethical considerations of using GenAI in healthcare, particularly in decision-making process?
I think one of the most critical one is, how do you define these right guardrails in terms of avoiding the biases? I think that's one of the most important one, I would say. So especially in healthcare, we can't afford any biases in terms of outcome of the Gen AI results. So, it's very, very critical where we, use the right prompts and define the right guardrails so that we can avoid those situations. So I would say the bias management is a critical factor, Sridhar, in the healthcare industry.
Well, with that, we wrap the session. Thank you, Deepak, for sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you for all the audience who joined on a weekday, and really appreciate your time. I hope it's all a very useful session for all of you. Thanks again. And DJ, thanks for organizing this. And thank you all.